Corporate Karma Case Files. Confidential, unfiltered, corporate.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to look at the modern office through a really specific kind of fascinating lens. I want you to imagine it not just as a workplace, but as a highly complex chessboard. Now, if you're a junior employee stepping into this arena, you might think the most dangerous threat to your career is a demanding boss or maybe a loud, aggressive colleague. But the source material we're analyzing today reveals a much darker truth. The ultimate threat is actually the smiling saboteur. We're talking about someone playing a long, unseen game right beside you. They don't attack you directly. Instead, they work through whispers and the really slow erosion of your reputation. So today, we're going to decode their game.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our clinical, step-by-step, forensic breakdown of surviving office politics. We're going to cover the opening gambit, the saboteur's playbook, the trap of reacting, the grandmaster's defense, and finally, corporate checkmate.
Section 1. The opening gambit, setting the board. Let's introduce our two players. On one side, we have Nadia. She's a seasoned senior account manager, highly competent and entirely focused on the actual work. And on the other side, Zara, a magnetic, new lateral hire who is intensely focused on controlling the office narrative. They're both at the exact same level, they have the same client portfolio, and critically, they are competing for the exact same future director role that opens up in 18 months. Notice the profound contrast here. While Nadia relies purely on her results, Zara spent her first 3 months just charming the office. You know, bringing pastries on Mondays, remembering coffee orders. She was strategically building this massive platform of trust. Because, as any saboteur knows, you absolutely cannot poison a well until you ensure everyone is drinking from it.
Once that trust was fully established, Zara placed her first strategic piece on the board. The psychology here is just fascinating. Basically, in the absence of information, people fill the gap with the most recent story they heard. So Zara's opening gambit wasn't some direct attack on Nadia. It was a subtle, entirely unprovable rumor planted in the ears of a few colleagues. Just a whisper that Nadia intentionally botched the Hendrix account to make Zara look bad. It wasn't true at all, but man, it was incredibly calculated. It planted a seed of doubt that Nadia couldn't just simply wave away.
Section 2. The Saboteur's Playbook, a meeting survival guide. For junior staff, if you want to survive in a corporate environment, you have to learn to forensically decode the psychological warfare happening right around the conference table. Saboteurs are dangerous precisely because they're designed to erode your credibility without leaving any visible fingerprints. The sources identify 5 covert instruments in the saboteur's toolkit. First up, the concerned friend, who tells you people are talking about you, really just to rattle your nerves. Second, the innocent question. Third, the sympathetic reframe, where they fake sympathy just to highlight a supposed flaw you have. Fourth, the strategic absence. This is where they mysteriously vanish during your wins, but are hyper-present during your failures. And fifth, the long silence. That subtle act of leaving you off emails or lunch invites to isolate you. Every single one of these is completely deniable. Let's zoom in on instrument number 2 for a second to hear exactly what subtle manipulation sounds like. Imagine you're in a team meeting, leadership is present, and the saboteur chimes in with, "Sorry, just to clarify, whose idea was the original brief on this? I want to make sure we credit the right people." It sounds perfectly polite, right? It sounds like they're just looking out for the team. And this brilliantly illustrates the gap between the disguise and the true intent. Notice how the disguise focuses heavily on fairness and making sure people are credited. But the true intent? It's to publicly plant ambiguity and doubt in front of the bosses where absolutely none existed before. It operates exactly like a grenade rolled right under the conference table. The saboteur doesn't actually accuse you of stealing credit. They just ask an innocent question. And the mere act of asking is enough to severely damage your standing.
Section 3. The trap of reacting, the critical blunder.
Now, when Nadia heard about the rumors Zara planted, her visceral instinct was to march right over to Zara's desk and demand an explanation, or to immediately report it to HR. She really wanted to trust her emotional instincts. But look at the steps of this trap. If you jump to direct confrontation or HR without hard proof, you inevitably have an emotional, defensive reaction. And the moment you do that, the saboteur wins the narrative. If you confront them loudly, you look aggressive. If you go to HR with just rumors, you look like a paranoid colleague making false accusations. The saboteur doesn't just want you to fight back. They desperately need you to fight back badly. Your emotional reaction is the exact data they use to prove to everyone else that you are the problem. Section 4. The Grandmaster's Defense, the 5 countermoves. Nadia realized the trap, swallowed her anger, and executed a flawless framework. Move number 1 is radical composure. The absolutely crucial point to understand here is that a saboteur feeds on your disruption. Every flinch, every defensive tone, every awkward pause. So Nadia made the strategic decision to be intentionally unshakable. She greeted Zara normally, warmly even. She gave Zara absolutely nothing. By maintaining radical composure, you literally starve the saboteur of the behavioral data they need to escalate their campaign. Because at the end of the day, a composed target is a boring target. Move number 2 is silent documentation. Nadia started quietly recording every tiny incident, every subtle exclusion, every innocent question in a meeting, complete with precise dates, times, and context. She didn't do this so she could run to HR the very next day for immediate revenge. No, she gathered these receipts as forensic insurance, meticulously building a timeline for the exact moment it would be needed. Next on the board, we've got moves 3 and 4. Move 3 is to flood your environment with excellence. Nadia started sending out crystal clear, structured project updates and aggressively securing written feedback from clients. Move 4 is to strengthen your alliances across departments. She grabbed coffees, she helped colleagues out, but here is the real kicker. She did all of this without ever once mentioning Zara's name. Making your value undeniable and building strong connections completely independent of the saboteur, it makes their whispered rumors seem utterly implausible to the rest of the team. Finally, move 5, rope management. Honestly, this is probably the hardest psychological tactic to master. It's the deliberate act of waiting and doing absolutely nothing. Because you're starving the saboteur of any reaction or drama, they are forced to escalate their own campaign just to keep their narrative alive. Patience is literally a weapon here. By doing nothing, you give them the rope they need to trip themselves up. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds over a period of weeks. In week 1, Nadia begins her silent documentation and radical composure. By week 4, totally starved of any defensive reaction from Nadia, Zara starts increasing her subtle, pointed comments, desperately trying to force an interaction. And by week 7, the intense pressure of generating solo drama causes Zara to make a fatal mistake. She overreaches publicly. Section 5, Corporate Checkmate, the Resolution. It was week 7, right in the middle of a major project debrief with senior managers. Zara, desperate to keep her whole campaign alive, publicly suggested that project delays were due to misaligned communication from Nadia's team. This was the moment. Nadia didn't get angry. She didn't raise her voice. Emotionlessly, she simply projected her forensic receipts directly onto the screen. Her project log showed the exact timeline, all communications, every single decision documented, and every approval recorded. She didn't call Zara a liar, she just let pure, undeniable data speak for itself. The room went clarifyingly quiet. Senior leadership thanked Nadia for her rigor, and Zara was left entirely speechless. It was just an incredibly satisfying, perfectly executed checkmate. Just 3 months later, that's how long it took. Deprived of the oxygen of a reaction and looking completely unhinged because she'd been generating drama entirely on her own, Zara's standing in the company completely evaporated. Without the cover of a conflict, people finally saw her tactics for exactly what they were. 3 months later, Zara resigned. And 11 months after the entire ordeal began, Nadia secured that highly coveted director role. And you know what's most telling? During her promotion, management praised her specifically for her extraordinary composure under pressure and her exceptional documentation standards. She won the chess match simply by refusing to play the saboteur's game. So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought, especially to the junior employees tuning in today. Manipulation in the office isn't something to fear. It's really just pure data that you can manage. If a saboteur played their opening gambit against you tomorrow, trying to pull you into an emotional trap, what would your first move be? Remember, your reputation isn't fragile, as long as you protect it with radical composure and silent documentation. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your receipts, stay composed, and I'll see you next time.
Like, comment, subscribe. The next case file opens soon.